Hey, what's up, guys? It's Sports Blitz here, and we're back with another NFL record prediction and deep dive. Today we have the Carolina Panthers. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Let's go ahead and get on into it. So, starting off, quarterback position. Bryce Young definitely turned it up, the last 9, 10 weeks of last year and really started to look like a serviceable starter. He was making a lot of really impressive throws, a lot of throws under pressure. He was really keeping them in games that I feel like they really had not a lot of business being in, like the Chiefs and Eagles games. And then was also able to put up 44 points against the Falcons, putting up 5 touchdowns of his own, super close to a sixth, but ended up turning into like a 1 yard touchdown for Miles Sanders instead. So yeah, he's definitely shown a lot of improvement. I think that's going to be the biggest X factor for this team. I know quarterback usually is, but I think it's going to be the biggest X factor here is if he's going to, pick up the beginning of this season how he left off the last season, or if he's going to kind of revert back to not playing super well, like he did at the beginning of last season or like he did his rookie year. So that's probably going to be the biggest question mark there. Assuming he picks up where he left off last season, I think they're going to be in a good spot quarterback wise. I think they're going to I think they're going to be in a lot of games. And I think they're going to win a pretty good amount. So, yeah, Bryce Young's, awesome for them. Andy Dalton is really one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. So, in case Bryce did end up getting injured, Andy Dalton's serviceable. In terms of running back, Chuba Hubbard is a borderline top 10 running back in the league. I would at least say he's top 12, but he's, you can make an argument for top 10. And then you pair him up with Rico Dowdle from the Cowboys. He's coming off a 1,000 yard season as well. He also, much like Bryce Young, started, turning it up a lot more, the second half of last season. Really, the first half of last season, he didn't really do a whole lot. Was, you know, their run game was pretty lackluster. The Cowboys was. But he kind of started to really figure it out and was looking really good down the stretch. So I think he's an excellent running back too. They also drafted Trevor Etienne in the draft. I think that was a great pickup there while Jonathan Brooks is getting healthy. I think once Brooks does get healthy, it's going to be more Chuba Hubbard and Brooks, kind of have like a 1A, 1B, sort of, 1-2 punch. And then Trevor Etienne is going to be really, honestly, a really solid third down back if needed. Can put him in there on passing downs. I think he's going to be a good receiving back. I think he's also going to end up being a kick and possibly punt returner as well. But, so yeah, I think they're in a good spot running back wise. In terms of wide receiver, obviously we don't know what Tedero McMillan's going to be quite yet. He is a rookie, so we haven't seen him play at the NFL level yet. But I do think it's going to help Bryce Young quite a bit. I had him as the best receiver coming out of the draft. So I mean, that's big news for Bryce. It really is. Still got Adam Thielen as, you could argue between wide receiver 2 and 3, trying to mix words there. I mean, he's pretty much going to be Bryce Young's all reliable sort of guy, like if nobody else is open, Adam Thielen's going to be open. Like, he's going to be Bryce Young's safety net, I think is the right word to use there. Xavier Legette going into year 2, started off the first half of last season looking pretty solid. He was getting, some good touchdowns in there too. Was looking like a solid receiver. And then he kind of ended up getting a wrist injury that he said that didn't really contribute to a lot of his drops, but a lot of receivers don't start randomly dropping balls at the same time they get an injury if it's not related. So, I do expect him to be a lot better in year 2. And then going over to Jalen Coker, he was very, very impressive last year as well. He didn't play at all till what was it, week 9 or 10 or something around there, and ended up with over 400 yards as an undrafted rookie free agent as well. So I think he's going to be a big part of this offense as well. I would expect Hunter Renfrow and Jimmy Horn to also make the roster. I think David Moore is going to be gone. I think Dan Chisena is probably going to be practice squad. Honestly, I could potentially see them if they decide to keep a 7th receiver. I've heard Kobe Hudson has been looking really good, and it's not training camp yet, but like OTAs or mini camp, whatever you want to call it right now. So they could keep a 7th receiver. Some teams do that, some teams don't. Anyways, going over to tight end, they have Tommy Tremble listed as number 1. I think Jatavian Sanders is really going to be the main guy. He had a really good stretch during last season before he got injured that he was looking really good. He put up a really, really good game against the Saints and then was coming back against the Chiefs. And before he got injured, I think it was towards the end of the second quarter. Before then, he was playing really, really well against the Chiefs as well. I think he's going to be tight end 1 for them. I don't expect it to be Tommy. That said, I do think Tommy's going to be a solid tight end 2. So, I think they're good there. In terms of O-line, I don't see any holes. Like, this is a really good O-line. Ike Ekwonu, he had a decent rookie year. Kind of had a really, really bad sophomore slump. Was not looking like a good tackle his second year. And then his third year, he started to, kind of put it back together and started looking pretty solid. He was a little inconsistent at times, especially in pass blocking, but, is a really good run blocker. One of the better run blocker, tackles in the league. So I think another year of improvement there. I think he's going to be really good. I think they have one of the best guard duos in the league with Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. I think they're both very, very talented guards, and honestly, they were great investments on this Panthers team, last offseason. So, at center, they also have Austin Corbett set there at starting at center. I believe it's probably going to be Cade Mays. Cade Mays was the starter from, I think it was the Giants game through the end of the season, and that was kind of when the O-line started looking its best. So I think it's going to be Cade Mays. I think he's going to be the starter, but I guess we'll kind of have to wait and see. It's going to be kind of a training camp battle, I'd assume. And then Taylor Moton, he's been one of the most consistent tackles in the league for quite a while now. So I think they're pretty set with him. Going over to defense, they are getting Derek Brown back from, being injured all of last year. I think that's going to be huge for them, considering how bad their run defense was this last year. especially where Derek Brown was coming off a fantastic 2023 season. They definitely need that help there. I think getting Bobby Brown at nose tackle was honestly an extremely underrated signing. I was kind of keeping an eye on them to get Milton Williams, and then once I saw the price that the Patriots signed him for instead, I was like, okay, yeah, it's a good thing the Panthers didn't spend like that on him. And then I kind of shifted my eyes over to Bobby Brown because, I know Bobby Brown's not exactly your a pass rushing nose tackle, but he is an extremely good run stopping nose tackle. Like, he's a guy you quite possibly won't get a single sack this season, but he's gonna be so good at taking double teams, just stopping the run at a really high level, and it's gonna help that defense significantly. They also went out and got Tershawn Wharton from the Chiefs. I think he's going to be a really, really good pass rushing D tackle, or I guess in this defense, it's going to be 3-4 D end. It's going to be really good there. I'd expect 6-7 sacks at that spot. I want to say, if I remember right, I want to say he got like 6.5 sacks with the Chiefs last year. Don't quote me on the exact number, but I want to say I was around that 6 or 7 number. And A'Shawn Robinson's coming off probably the best year of his career as well at that same spot. So I think the D line is looking a lot better than it did this last year. Going over to the linebackers, I think they did a lot better at figuring out their edge spots as well. They went out and got Nick Scorton as well as Princely Umanmielen. I am a big fan of both of them. I'm not going to lie, initially when they drafted Nick Scorton, I didn't love it because I had only really watched his Texas A&M tape. I hadn't really watched his Purdue tape before. And, later on I went through and watched his Purdue tape again and saw how explosive he really was. And realizing that he cut back down to that weight while maintaining the muscle that he had from when he gained weight, like he's gonna be a very powerful and finesse type pass rusher. So I think he's gonna be a good edge rusher there for the Panthers. I think that was an awesome pickup. I also loved the Princely Umanmielen pick. It's got him listed as number 3 right here on the weak side. I think it's probably going to end up being more so like, to start off the season, it's going to be DJ Wanham on one side, Pat Jones on the other side, and then we'll have Nick Scorton behind one of them, Princely Umanmielen behind the other one. And then you'll see probably, if they keep DJ Johnson, he'll be kind of the floating guy behind both of them. But I do expect as the season goes on, Nick Scorton's probably going to end up starting, and honestly, I think Umanmielen's also probably going to become a starter at some point. So that's kind of how I see that lining up. I think that's a big improvement to the pass rush. It may start off a little slow while they kind of figure out, how they are as a team. But once they get rolling, I think it's going to be a solid pass rush. In terms of the inside linebackers, they've got Josie Jewell, who he was up and down last season. There were games he looked really, really good, and there were some games that he looked awful, like absolutely terrible. I mean, off the top of my head, I can say he looked fantastic in the Giants game, and is a big reason they ended up winning that one. But I can also say there were several games I saw that, he looked lost. He wasn't a fantastic tackler. I think he's pretty decent in pass coverage. but he could definitely get better at stopping the run. And then they picked up Christian Roseboom, who I kind of view as a similar type of player. I think he's probably a little bit better at stopping the run, maybe not quite as good in pass coverage type of thing, but I feel like they're pretty similar players. I think realistically, if they end up seeing some big improvement from Trevin Wallace, I think Trevin's going to end up taking one of their spots. It just kind of, you got to see how the beginning of the season plays out first. But I do think Trevin's going to end up taking one of their spots. Going over to the secondary. Now, they extended J.C. Horn long term. Brought him back for another 4 years for $100 million. Made him, it was at the time, the highest paid corner in the league. Now he's second behind Derek Stingley. Great signing for them. Definitely needed to keep him around. They also went out and signed Trayvon Merrick from the Raiders. Expect him to play a lot of, box safety sort of thing. Play closer to the line of scrimmage, help stop the run quite a bit. But it does sound like they're wanting to use him kind of all over the place. So we'll see how that goes. Going over to the other corner, they've got Mike Jackson, who, as a number 2 corner this last season, I think he played average. I wouldn't say he was fantastic, but I don't think he was really the reason they were really blowing games either. So, I wouldn't call him a liability, but definitely a spot they could look to improve. And then going over to nickel, they've got Shaw Smith Wade, who, when he did play this last year as a rookie, he looked really good. He already had his first career interception against Tampa Bay. And then he kind of ended up getting injured. Wasn't able to play much towards the end of the season, but when he was out there, he looked good. From what I've heard, he's been doing really, really well in the mini camp and everything they've had. So, definitely some big improvements there. If he can play well there, that's going to help their defense so much. For free safety, they've got Nick Scott, starting right there. That doesn't really give me a lot of confidence. It really doesn't. I don't think Nick Scott's that great. Damani Richardson looked pretty solid last year when he kind of took over at that spot. He is going into year 2 as well, so hey, maybe try to keep some of the secondary there a little bit younger and let them grow as a unit. So if Nick Scott doesn't end up playing well, Damani Richardson could take over. But I think I covered the depth chart pretty well. I think they're a pretty underrated roster. I think a lot of people will look at the Panthers and be like, no, they're the same old Panthers every year. They're only going to win 4 or 5 games. But when you really break it down, I think they've got a really solid roster. I really do. So let's go ahead and move on over to the record prediction. Okay, so starting off week 1, they are going to be traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. This is going to be kind of the battle of the ETN brothers, so that could be a fun storyline there. A few things I'm looking for in this game is J.C. Horn covering Brian Thomas. See how that goes. I think that's going to be a good matchup. As well as Tetero McMillan versus Travis Hunter. That was a fun matchup to watch in college. Now they get to do it at the NFL level. As well as Travis Hunter as a wide receiver going up against I'm sure it's probably going to be more so Mike Jackson, but I'm sure he'll get some reps against J.C. Horn as well, just depending on how the defense lines up. I think as a whole, I feel like the Panthers improved more as a complete team this offseason than the Jags. I like the direction they're going with Bryce Young, whereas I feel like with Trevor Lawrence, he's had injury issues. He seems to be kind of I don't want to say declining because he's not at an age to start getting worse or anything, but he just hasn't really looked great even when healthy. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Panthers. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a pretty high scoring game. I think each team scores 25 plus, and it's going to be a close one. But I think the Panthers end up taking it. And then it's going to be Panthers at the Arizona Cardinals. Panthers have kind of had the Cardinals number for a long time now, and I'm talking like over a decade, like 14, 15 years now. I want to say the Cardinals have only beaten the Panthers like twice in that time. So, I mean, I'm gonna go Panthers here. Panthers ended up beating the Cardinals this last year in overtime. And really that was with an absolutely atrocious defense, and while it didn't look like they were a real great team, I feel like they had a lot of really good additions this offseason. I've said before too, Cardinals did as well. I liked their offseason a lot. I think if they can put together another really good offseason like that after this season, they can be a real threat in 2026. I don't think the Cardinals are quite there yet. Then for week 3, got the Falcons taking on the Panthers in Carolina. I think they're gonna split with the Falcons. They did this last year, even with a not as good team. I feel like they split with the Falcons every single year. So just out of fairness, I'm gonna say they win in their own stadiums. So I think that's entirely fair right there. Then they're taking on the Patriots. This is a tough one because I thought Drake May had a solid rookie year, but I didn't really like a whole lot else about the Patriots. I don't love their receiving core. Their tight ends are all right. I will say I really liked the Travion Henderson pickup. That was a really good draft pick. I think they overpaid for Milton Williams by quite a bit, but it was kind of a necessary pickup. I think this is going to be a close one. I think this is going to be one where home field advantage matters. I'm going to give it to the Patriots. If this was one that they were in Carolina, I may give the edge to them. I think that's how close of a game it's going to be. But I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Patriots. I think that'll be a fun game to watch, though. Then, taking on the Miami Dolphins, I'm expecting the Dolphins to kind of decline a little bit more this season. I think it's going to kind of start to turn into a situation that, like, they start to kind of question, is Tua the right guy? I always forget their head coach's name for some reason. It's Mike something. I can't remember his name for some reason. Anyways, I think they start to kind of question, like, hey, is he the right guy for us? I think the Dolphins are going to be kind of in a rough spot that way. So Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give that one to the Panthers. But going on to week 6, taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are one that I've seen a lot of people really disrespecting the crap out of the Cowboys this offseason. Like, I know we kind of like to troll them and say, how a lot of Cowboys fans will be like, "Yeah, this is our year and everything," and people will troll them and be like, "No, you guys are trash." I think it's kind of gotten to the point that people are kind of disrespecting the Cowboys a little bit. They still have a really solid team, you know. I still expect them to win 9 or 10 games, so I'm going Dallas here. I think their pass rush is still going to be just a little bit too much for the Panthers, just like it was this last season. I think that was just rough matchups, and I don't know that I'd see it getting much better. So, but I do think the Panthers kind of make up for it the following week, and end up beating the Jets. They do have Justin Fields now. I do think Fields will end up doing all right with the Jets long term. I think it's going to take them. I think it's going to take him a while to really get accustomed with the Jets, though. Because I mean, really only one real good receiver right now in Garrett Wilson. I mean, I don't love their tight end situation either. Brees Hall is good, but he has kind of struggled to stay healthy. So that's kind of a question mark there as well. I do like the improvements they've made to their O line. I think the Membu pick was solid. I don't think they're great. I think they're going to be kind of a team that takes a while to figure out what they really are, especially with, Fields at quarterback. So, but then I think they're going to get back to losing again the following week against the Bills. I don't see them beating the Bills here. I really don't. I mean, even with it being a home game, I think the Bills are just too high powered. I just don't see it. I think it'll be a fun game against the Packers the following week. You go back to Bryce Young's rookie year, and they had a really close game with the Packers. That was just kind of an unexpected, really fun game. But I think the Packers' defense has gotten significantly better since then, and different schemes and everything, too. I'm going to go ahead and give that one to the Packers. If it was in Carolina, it'd be a little bit harder for me to predict. I don't know for sure who I'd go with there, but being in Green Bay, I'm giving that one to the Packers. Then for the Saints, I do actually have the Panthers sweeping them this year. I think the Saints are I think they're going to be kind of at the bottom of the food chain this year. I really do. Don't love their quarterback situation. I thought Tyler Shuck went way earlier than he should have. It really feels like the Saints are going to be kind of a team in the mix for Arch Manning. That's just if I'm being totally honest. So I'm saying the Panthers sweep them. I already talked about the Falcons game. I mean, I think they get wins in their appropriate stadiums. I think they'll both be relatively close. Yeah, I think that'll be a fun one though. Then they're taking on the 49ers in prime time in San Francisco. I'm going to say right now, if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, I think the 49ers win this. If he's not, it's going to be a lot closer of a game, but I think the Panthers may take it in that case. I don't like doing my predictions under the assumption someone's injured, though. So I'm going to go 49ers here. But I do think the Panthers, kind of get back on track the next season and get an unexpected win against the Rams. I think this is going to be kind of a year that you finally see Matt Stafford take a little bit of a step back. I still think he'll be in like the top, 15 to 17 range of quarterbacks. I don't think it's going to be like a significant step back, but I think it's going to be kind of a thing that like they're not going to be in that like tier of teams that you could see them win any given week, you know. I think the Panthers win this because it's a home game. Again, if they were in LA for that one, I'd probably lean the Rams in that game. Like there's a lot of these games here that could go either way. Either way. So then they have a bye. They're taking on the Saints there. After that, they've got their first game against the Bucks, and I think they split with the Bucks. I'm still a firm believer they should have split with the Bucks this last year. I think they got kind of screwed by the refs in the first matchup with them. They kind of screwed Adam Thielen out of a touchdown there, which, I mean, had they gotten that touchdown, it wouldn't have even gone into overtime, where Chuba, fumbled the ball. So I think the Panthers should have won that one. And then you got the Seahawks here. I'm curious what version of Sam Darnold we're going to see. Because Sam Darnold's one that, like, during most of his time with Minnesota last year, he looked really good. But there were also times that he kind of looked like the Sam Darnold of old, where he just didn't look good. He looked scared under pressure. So you really kind of wonder what version of Sam Darnold you're going to see there. I don't love the Seahawks O-line. So I think if the Panthers can get after him with pressure, I think the Panthers can win it. So I'm going to give it to Carolina there, and then obviously again split with the Bucks, the following week. But yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers get an unexpected win there, and overall gives them a 10-7 record. I know that seems high, but they've got a lot of what should be easy games in the schedule. I mean, if Bryce Young really picks up where he left off last season, and their defense plays even at a league average level, all right, at a league average level, then, I mean, they should get a win these first 3 weeks. Realistically, the Patriots are a very real chance there. If a lot of people end up being right about the Cowboys, they could win that one. I still see no shot that they beat the Bills. Like, Packers can be kind of inconsistent at times too, so maybe that could be a sneaky one as well. Like I said with the 49ers game, if Christian McCaffrey's injured there, I could definitely see the Panthers win that. On the other hand, I could definitely see them lose to the Rams right there too. Like I said, that's kind of an upset win for the Panthers in my opinion. And again, for the Seahawks one, it depends on what version of Sam Darnold we see. So, I mean, I could see as low as like 7-10, and I could see as good as 12-5. So I think 10-7's pretty fair given that range, it's just kind of hard to predict much higher than that, you know? So I think they've got a really easy schedule, all things considered. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this record prediction in the comment section below. Again, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Later.